For a series that's had a lot of great dramatic highlights through its previous 6 episodes, I have to say the 7th episode of Showtime's Kidding, Kintsugi, is the best. I'm not even going to waste time trying to find cons with it because there weren't any, but I want to dive right in with my bullet list of things that I thought were really strong takeaways from the episode. First, right from the start, the idea of Jeff and Will going to LA to show Vivian what the beach and what dolphins look like, but also the fact that he's just going there and he's going on a toy company's dime. I think we start to see right from the start that Vivian's starting to have really good influence on Jeff, and that maybe Jeff and Mr. Pickles can have a symbiotic kumbaya relationship. We see that as very promising, and we see the positivity grow throughout the episode. Mr. Pickleson, the fact that he's staying there, going to be staying with Deidre and Scott, which we know is going to be an interesting dynamic. But even the backstory there, we see it as an interesting contrast. With Jeff, Seb's just trying to basically shoehorn him out and get something in place, where with Pickleson, we see it's a ceremony. It's the passing of the torch, and I thought there was a very interesting dynamic in play there with what's going on in Jeff's life right now. The Deidre and Scott situation, you couldn't get into more of a bigger identity issue than you have right there. You have Deidre who's really basically saying, look, I'm willing to say that this is in play, let's keep the marriage together, and you do what you got to do. And Scott's just not in that place to own up, that even though Deidre is there. The Mr. Pickles doll, I think there's a lot of interesting beheadings and head things and stuff like that. And even towards the end of the episode, when Jeff's having his freak out, you notice he goes after the TV screen with with Pickles' face on it. So we see a lot of symbolism there. I'm going to leave that up to some Freudian students and Jung students out there to go into deep interpretation, but something to keep in mind and track for the season. The off-script montage, I'm looking forward to seeing. I would love to see, just in general, the bloopers and the outtakes from this series, but the fact that Jeff is just going to start introducing people to ideas like, a Trail of Tears, genocide, and, again, it's one thing to talk about where babies come from. This just takes it to a whole new level, and it gets us wondering again, it's like in that confidence that Jeff is having, do we still see some issues and some fissures that exist? I think that's a major concern. Catherine Keener, fantastic episode for her. I know I'm sounding like a broken record, but I'm a huge Catherine Keener fan, and the interactions between her and Pickleson, the way they are able to magically communicate through puppetry, and we can say it's magic, we can say it's just in their minds or whatever we want. That's what I love about Michel Gondry and everything that he's involved with. It's just these fantasy worlds that he creates, but there's just a beautiful dynamic to it. And what I love is, through the communication of puppetry, we get the sense of what Kintsugi is, and it's a beautiful one. The idea that as Deidre sees herself as broken and imperfect, the idea behind Kintsugi is that the imperfections, those scars, those cracks are what makes something artistically beautiful. And I just thought that was a very sweet and beautiful moment that really led into some really good things. Vivian is in remission. We have a get-together with the families where we see families getting together. I mean, Jeff and Jill have already broken bread. Jeff and Pete start bonding over dog shows. Seb seems okay. Everything's going great. And then reality kicks in when Vivian uses that moment to break up with Jeff. And on one hand, we do understand where Vivian's coming from. This idea of like, look, I'm in remission now. I have to start living life. And you were in my life as the dead and dying boyfriend, and I can't have you around. Now, granted, the choice of timing is just painfully bad and painfully horrible, and I'm not sure exactly why that went to play. Again, from Vivian's standpoint, I think it'd be too easy to just kind of moniker her as the villain, but that's what the family does, and it's one of those weird situations, I think, where it's like, we can all fight and hit each other, but if you go after one of us, you're going after all of us, and it was uncomfortable. The FUs and the way the things that were directed at her, it really dragged us from the fantasy of what was going on to the reality of just how harsh things could be. And it just felt like from there, reality started kicking in. We had Pickleson telling a wonderful story that really touched the dynamic of what was going on between Jeff and Vivian. And then, of course, Scott comes in to just really lay a 10-ton bomb of reality down on top of Deidre. And then, of course, we see Jeff, in Seb's office still, trying to do the right thing, trying to pay off Vivian's bills. We feel for him, we understand. But then we see the difference in Jeff that's been building all along and really came to a head where he just trashes Seb's office and really leaves us in a very precarious situation going into the end of as we head towards the end of the season and a renewed season 2 is we have that live Christmas thing that's coming up. And I don't know if any rest of you are worried. I'm just not sure what Jeff, what Mr. Pickles, or what amalgamation of the two was going to end up on live television, and that's going to be a problem.